What I'm about to say right now is by far the easiest way to do that, yet so many coaches and gurus will tell you never to do this. The big thing that people don't realize about content.
If you're selling a coaching program or mastermind using a call funnel, may that be a video sales letter funnel or a webinar funnel or an application funnel, then this video is for you. I brought on my friend and ad expert Laura Porty, who has a signature system for making these funnels a lot more effective. Laura has done over 3 million in her coaching business. She taught her unique ecosystem to over 14,000 students. She wrote a book, The Super Duper Profitable Ads, and she has worked with many huge names in our industry. I am super honored and excited that she took the time to go over my mastermind funnel with me in this video. The mastermind funnel setup I shared with you in a previous video, how I'm setting up my ads to get calls booked. And now in this video, she's going with me over this funnel. It's amazing. If you are running a call funnel or you plan to, definitely check out the video, watch all the way to the end. Laura is not holding back on any value, so take notes and most importantly, implement after. Welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you showed me what we were going to do on this call, I got really, really excited because honestly, this is my jam, like this specific funnel. And what I really love about it is it kind of levels the playing field for so many people, right? Because whenever people think about book a call funnels, they think about the long VSL to a webinar funnel to all of this stuff. And in reality, like this type of funnel here brings a lot of volume and it still allows you to add the friction that you need in order so that you're not spending all day with, with unqualified people. And so I'll share my screen real quick. I just pulled up a Google Doc as Evelyn told, I was so excited. I was like, okay, we're going to draw this out really quick. And so what Evelyn was saying is that she has got, and correct me if I'm wrong as I'm going this. So she's got a school landing page that she's sending. We've got cold traffic to that she's sending here. So this is what she's doing right now. Now, here's the thing. Out of all of the people that are hitting this page, Evelyn, how many would you say are like what percentage of people are actually filling out the application?
I can tell you exactly. I had 2,451 people landing on the page, and we had complete applications 135. 5.5% are filling in the application. But it's also like a pretty lengthy media application that's already, repelling a lot of people through price and all of that.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about that, right? So 5% of people are actually getting to this application. She's got over 2,000 people, right? So there's 95% of people who are likely a good fit, right? And so the thing that we have to understand is that this type of funnel right here is designed to get people who are a good fit right now, right? Which is typically at any given point 2 to 3% of your entire audience, right? So let's just say that Evelyn is targeting people who are building their online business. So let's just use Amy Porterfield as an example, right? So let's say that Evelyn is sending all of these people to Amy Porterfield's audience. At that any given moment in time, there's going to be 2 to 3% of people who are ready to take action on the offer that Evelyn has, right? Because they are solution aware. They might not be product aware, but they're solution aware. They're actively looking for what Evelyn has. Now, on the other side, there's 97 to 98% of people who are ideal clients of Evelyn, but they're just not ready to buy right now. They're probably more problem aware, and we need to convert them into being solution aware, right? And so that's where my ads ecosystem comes in, right? And so what I like to say that my ads ecosystem does is it basically creates a conveyor belt of people, right? So the 2 to 3% of people are going to be on this side of the conveyor belt, right? But what we consistently want to do is we want to ensure that we're putting people on that conveyor belt in a consistent way, right? And so when people are only running traffic to this part of the funnel, it can be very expensive, right? Because you're using the most expensive type of Facebook ad to try to catch the narrowest part of the entire section of that audience, right? The people who are ready to buy. And so what we're going to do is we're essentially going to build an ecosystem around this funnel, because that's where most people have the misconception about my ad strategy, is they think that it replaces a funnel. It does not replace a funnel. We build it around, right? Because if we take a look at Evelyn's funnel here, the biggest black hole is here, but then there's another black hole here where just leads are falling through. And a lot of times people are just sending one retargeting ad back to that same audience, right? It's kind of like back in the day when there was a vacuum cleaner salesman knocking on your door and he would be like, buy my vacuum cleaner. And you slam the door in his face and you're like, no. And then he would climb up the tree and be like, buy my, and stalk you through your bedroom window and be like, buy my vacuum cleaner. And you're like, no, I'm still not going to buy, right? It's because they're using that same ad to just keep pushing people back and forth. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to plug every single hole that's in this funnel, right? So Evelyn, whenever you were running ads to this landing page, what was the specific offer? Like who was that ideal client that you were trying to attract? Like tell me a little bit about the language that you used there.
Okay, perfect. So I have only one ad for this, right? So I intentionally wanted to keep it really simple on this in the beginning because it's also the first mastermind I ever ran. And so I was very deliberate in not making it too attractive for the beginning because I first wanted to feel my toes into the water. So I didn't want to promise anything. I really built it. Maybe I can quickly share my screen so you can see it.
100%. Yep.
I very much just built it around my person and my tonality. So I just said after spending 1.5 million on ads, over 32,000 membership subscription sales, 6.2 million in net revenue from sales, I decided to put my low ticket programs on waiting list so I can focus on serving thousands of members across the programs. And rolling out my first mastermind, I have already started to work with coaches, course creators, and membership owners. This is my audience, right? Who are further in the journey. So I'm already trying to repel beginners here. Currently, I'm offering the opportunity to apply for a 30-minute one-to-one scale plan session with me to create a personalized plan. Click the link for details and to apply. And then when they click here, and they basically land on the school about page where they can see, what's included in the mastermind, the price, and then they can go to the application form where it again primes them more, sets the expectation, and then they have to fill in quite a few things for the mastermind. So that's the complete funnel right now. And there's only one ad. And I also, in the ad, I really try to take a visual of me that makes it like very grounded, not any lifestyle, nothing hype, just because I'm really trying to go for that more realistic business owner, right?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love simple funnels. Like for those of you guys who, who've seen my ads, you guys probably noticed I don't have this big, long, lengthy funnel, right? I've got two things, right? You can buy my $7 program. And then once people are in the $7 program, they can upgrade to Lean on Laurel or something like that, right? I am a huge, huge fan of simple funnels. And so what Evelyn is doing is very, very aligned with what I do. There's one thing that I will, work with Evelyn on doing that I think will actually help get even more traffic and better retargeting traffic. So here's something that everyone needs to know. Apple actually started doing this in 2021 with the iOS update, right? They allowed people to opt out of that third-party tracking, right? Well, now there's Chrome browsers, Firefox, all of those. They're actually destroying third-party data. And we actually confirmed this. I went to a whole bunch of my colleagues' sales pages, and my buddy Vince Reed showed me how to use the inspect tool within every single browser so that you could actually see if third-party cookies are being set, which is how the Facebook pixel works. Now, a lot of people are like, well, I've got CAPI installed. CAPI is sending back the conversion. It's not setting the retargeting pixel. So you could still be sending a ton of traffic and you might not get your stuff retargeted, which if you're spending a lot of money, you want to make every dollar count, right? So one of the things that I like to do to combat that is, you saw how Evelyn had her, it was like a little 5-minute VSL on her school page, right? So I would actually use that as the ad, even if she's still using it on her school page. So that's one of the things that I like to do. We call it the 5-minute VSL. You can run a video ad straight to this school group, because if people are watching a certain percentage of this video, we can easily retarget them. So it would bring more people into that retargeting audience. And then the other one is I would just keep the ad that she's running right now, because it's a really great one. right? It talks about everything that her ideal audience wants. 2 to 3% of people are being captured here, right? That's who we're targeting. We're going to do a couple of things, okay? So what can we do in order to get the 97 to 98% just to actually just get on the conveyor belt, right? We want to get them onto the conveyor belt so that we can nurture them into working with Evelyn. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do two things, because you also don't want to lose the people who are hitting this landing page and not taking action, right? We don't want to lose that traffic. So the first thing that I always do is I retarget people who are hitting this landing page, because here's the thing. They might not have had to book a 30-minute call today or this week, right? But they're like, well, you know what? I'll get back to that. And guess what? Sometimes we never do. And so we want to make sure that we bring them in to our ecosystem, like I like to call it, in another way. And I do this through Goodwill video content, right? They're 3 to 5 minute videos. These are not shorts, because I don't believe that shorts give us enough time to really discern whether or not someone's a really great fit for what we're doing. Because like someone could be scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, and it plays 25% of a short before they even look at the video, right? And so I like it to be very intentional. And by the way, we run these on YouTube too. The 3 to 5 minute Goodwill pieces of content. Now, here's what's important about these Goodwill pieces of content. We want to make sure that they are just as polarizing as they are attractive to Evelyn. So Evelyn, who would you say is, I like to explain it to my students as the ceiling client and the floor client, right? Like your floor client's like, what is the minimum requirement that that person has to have in order to work with you? And the ceiling is the best of the best of the best. I like to make content for the floor, the middle of that, and then the ceiling. That way you can get all of that segment pocket of people.
So I'd say my floor client is definitely somebody who is out of the rough waters in their business, right? So they're not desperate, scrambling for money. They're also somebody who has clear product to market fit. The coach, right? Or the experience worker, how I like to call them, because coach is just not the right word for it. They have a methodology. They have clarity on how to help people, right? So they have grown to the person who actually is able to drive results for others. So those are kind of my two minimum criteria there. Is like they're in financially good position, right? And not desperate, and they want to grow rather than repair and fix. And they actually making a difference for people. They actually have like a genuine framework. That's kind of the minimum for a mastermind. Then in the middle of that is, I love if they're doing something interesting. So, I have people in the mastermind who help preschool teachers with their materials, or who draw, like teach others how to draw, or teach others how to travel in their van to Iceland, and building a dog business. So I love also if they have like a really interesting business, because those are beautiful stories to tell, and I feel like the variety is teaching me so much as an educator. And then absolute top dreamiest client is if they want to scale, but they also have the same value alignment as I have, in a sense of, I want to grow as much as possible within certain lifestyle boundaries. And you and I talked about this, right? So it's not just more for the sake of more, but what's the purpose of that? May that be you have a family, right? Like you and your wife, you want to have a certain lifestyle and certain experiences. I want the same with my husband and our son. So if that's also what a lot of people come to me for. They want growth, but they love that I'm not putting it above everything else, right? And so we're trying to find like a holistic way. And the other thing is, and that's also interesting because I found it for you, I love people who want to do this really compliant, right? Who are like in that mindset, I want to do the right thing the right way. So that's my dreamiest ideal client, is like if they check all of these boxes.
I love that. And I'll make note to this for people who are listening, because I think when people hear me say like the floor client, they're always like, oh, those are the worst clients. As a matter of fact, I will say this as a side note, and I think Evelyn, you probably feel the same way at times too, is sometimes helping the floor client is the most satisfying, right? Because like the floor client is the one that has like the biggest leaps and bounds in like their business. And so I just want to make note for people who are listening to this, we're not talking about like floor clients being like the, the worst clients or anything like that. It's just, it's going to take a little bit more help to get them where they want to be. But at the same time, that is also super satisfying. So I love that. And so what Evelyn would do, and we're actually we're gonna work on this together in another video, is actually putting the content pieces together in order to attract the floor, the middle, and the ceiling. Why are we doing that? Well, at times we could actually segment, right? Because then we can actually create content that is going to be aligned with what the floor client wants. There's going to be content that aligns with what the ceiling client wants, right? And so now we've got two ways to actually bring in leads into our business, okay? So Evelyn, you guys are used to building your physical list, right? What we're actually going to do on this side is we're going to build something that's called an invisible list. And we call it an invisible list because you can't see that person's name. You can't see any contact information for this person, but we can retarget them because when people watch videos on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, those are on platform actions, meaning first party data, so they can be tracked across that platform. And so on one end, we're going to be building the invisible list, and the other side, we're going to be building a physical list. The invisible list is going to capture those 97 to 98% of people who are our ideal clients, but maybe not necessarily ready to buy right now. And we're going to give them a chance to enter our ecosystem. So if they watch 25% or more, we're going to add them to our warm traffic stack. If they hit your school landing page, we're going to drive them to that warm traffic ecosystem as well. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we have 3 different pieces to this. Okay. So there's 3 retargeting sequences that we're going to use in order to bring people to the back of the funnel, right? Because we want to create that conveyor belt effect. What I'm about to say right now is by far the easiest way to do that, yet so many coaches and gurus will tell you never to do this. And what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to use boosted posts. Now, the way that a lot of people use boosted posts isn't necessarily a great strategy because a lot of times they'll boost stuff on their profile to cold traffic. What we're actually going to do is we're going to actually boost it to the people who have already shown interest, whether they've watched 25% or more of a video, or maybe they visited your school group. Right. And so we're just gonna boost weekly posts to them. Even if there's no CTA, we just want to show up consistently in their newsfeed, right? Because the more that we can get people to spend time with us, the better off we are, right?
I had a super quick question around this. Is that
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
So, for example, one thing that I'm going all in on is YouTube, because I see, like, even if I don't have the highest view numbers, the conversions are fantastic from the YouTube videos. Would that, for example, be a good boosted post if I'm sharing my YouTube video to my Facebook page and then we're boosting it? Or is it bad if it links away from Facebook?
100%. I love that you asked me this
Okay.
question because I have a campaign. It's a simple traffic campaign that literally just carries people over to my YouTube videos. And the reason that I do this is because strategically, I want my audience to be anywhere I can target them, right? Because if Facebook shuts down my ad account,
Yeah.
at least I have them on my YouTube channel. And if you look at the numbers between my subscribers, my followers on Instagram, and my followers on Facebook, you can tell the numbers are very similar, that we've created this like spider web to just get them everywhere. So that's a really great question. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second thing is the thing that a lot of people really don't want to do, but it is my macro belief that moving forward, because of AI, because of all of the people who have been bamboozled in the coaching space, I think that it's always great that we can actually intercept conversations with people who have become a lead with us at somehow have some type of touch point, right? So I love putting a DM funnel. So basically just giving away something for free in exchange for a conversation. Now, some of my high-end clients who are solopreneurs, they're like, I don't really have time for that. I'm like, that's cool as long as your funnel is getting you the return on ad spend. But I will say this, by adding a DM funnel, it'll take, like, on average, my clients get about 8 to 10 ROAS with the ecosystem minus the DM funnel. But when we actually put a DM funnel, we're talking 30 to 40 ROAS.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge difference, right?
And I once, when I had the mastermind, I started to look more like at my DMs because I started to, I just wanted to see, because over the years I've been pushing away everything like one-to-one work. Well, once I hit a certain threshold, and then I would only cherry pick members to basically make like a case study or something, but I was just feeling overwhelmed and there's not enough leverage with one-to-one. So I just, shut down all the blinds. The amount of quality people I let, I ghosted in my DMs was like shocking. And these were people with 250,000, 400,000 Instagram follows who were like trying to work with me. And I was like, wow. So I completely understand it. And I also think if I think about how I approach people I want to work with, I also reach out via DM. So I think it's especially the higher quality type of clients. They're just straight to the point. So I'll definitely try to open this up.
Yeah, and this is something that my mentor Nick like always is a constant reminder. Like because as I'm teaching this, he's like, Laurel, you really need to tell people because people get freaked out by my ecosystem if they set it up. And within the first like 2 months, nothing is happening for someone who's brand new, right? For someone who's brand new, because when I get someone like Evelyn, within 24 hours, that first call usually comes in with the sequence I'm about to show you guys. But one thing to remember, especially if you're brand new, is if you think about the way that sophisticated buyers will buy things, they are not going to be the ones that are going to book a call on your calendar. They are not going to be the ones who will ask for a free thing ever. As a matter of fact, you will have no interaction with them. They will just sit there and watch the videos that you post on your YouTube channel or on your Facebook. They will watch the video ads that are showing up in their newsfeed. They will never really use the DM funnel. What they'll do though is they will literally just send you a message one day and be like, how could I pay?
Yeah.
Like
had
they
this.
will, they don't want to hop on a call.
Yeah.
They're just like, they're sold. And it's because of this strategy.
I did have people who just bought, and I was like, "Was that an accident?" They were like, "No, can we get started?" I was like, "Okay," but you're right, and I can almost see the correlation between revenue and profit per month to the behavior on how they book the call. They either buy immediately or they book a call and they send me a message within 30 seconds of booking the call. I booked the call. I really look forward to talking to you. It's like, it's like a certain behavior of like when they decide they want something, it's this immediate urgency that they have to kind of move forward with it.
Yeah, because when they make that decision, like one of the biggest mistakes, and this is why I switched up, before we started recording, I was telling Evelyn how I switched up the way that I'm doing my higher level program was because like the way that I was doing it before, people had to like were on a wait list. And like so I would like some of my most like ceiling clients, they don't want to be on a wait list. And so I had to up the price and give them an even higher price to be able to like work with me right now. But that's how sophisticated buyers buy. Like they're not going to sit there and wait. Like they are so solution and product aware. They're not necessarily Laurel aware, but they are product aware. They're like, I need this type of setup and I'm ready to go. And so that's why it's important that we give them different avenues to be able to do that. Because like Evelyn said, and I'm guilty of this too. Like there's so many people in my DM that end up in that spam folder that I forget is even there. And it's like, oh man, like I just bought with someone last week and I'm like, ah, damn, there we go. There's so many hot leads that are sitting in our DMs, and it's something that so many people are just ignoring because they don't want to quote take the time to do it, and people are like, well, Laurel, do you have it automated? Do you have a VA doing it? And like, nope, it's all me. I still have about, if I had to guess, I probably have between 100 to 150 conversations with, even when my stuff's on waitlist, I still love having conversations because I have the macro belief that we could actually create our perfect client through the conversations that we're actually having with them, right? Because when I get a client and they haven't validated their offer, I'm going to try to help them validate their offer before they even, because I don't want to help them validate an offer when they're working with me. So I'm like, I'm going to give them all the resources and everything that they can in order to do that. Because once they do that, boom, they're my perfect client. And if I'm the one that helped them validate their offer, who do you think they're going to choose first?
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. And I think it's such an overlooked opportunity. And like you said, it's probably one of the highest leverage tasks, highest paid tasks you can do in your business. So I'm going to give that a shot.
Yeah, it was who wrote the book, the 80-20 rule. They were like 20% of what you do is going to lead to 80% of like the outputs of your business. I have a macro belief that the DM funnel is my 20% of input that like gets out the 80% of output. And it's something that is, like I said, overlooked by so many people, and maybe not necessarily overlooked, but done the wrong way, like by so many people.
Yeah.
Then the last thing that we're gonna do is something that a lot of marketers call the hot 7 sequence. I call it the hot 7 because like when I worked in radio, we used to have this thing that was called like the hot 7 at 7, and it was always the best songs of the day, and advertisers like really, really loved it. And so I call it the hot 7 because I like to take the 7 best boosted posts that I have had from that quarter, and I actually turn them into an evergreen ad strategy. And then these ads right here bring people straight back to the application. Now, depending on how much traffic, I actually designed it for my agency clients who were spending tens and thousands of dollars. And so I actually built the hot 7 sequence to actually plug this hole here. They had hit the application, but they hadn't applied. But there's a lot of people who are probably going to watch this video and they don't have at least 500 people who are going through and making it to the end of the funnel. So originally I designed the hot 7 to be between, you know, the application and the booked call, but it can be used in the warm stack traffic as well. As a matter of fact, whenever I get clients in those setups that, you know, that I do in Lean on Laurel, this is the first thing that I actually implement because there's always traffic sitting there. For instance, I have a student, Deborah, she's a financial expert, and she came into Lean on Laurel last week, and I was like, here you go, here are the ads that you're going to do, go do them, and we'll put them in Ads Manager. Literally within 48 hours she had booked 4 calls. Within the first 7 days, 6 calls.
Really
And
nice.
we had not even done any of these other ads. Like she didn't even have a VSL or anything. She just had a bunch of organic traffic that was just sitting there from years of her putting out content. And so immediately, like she got 6 booked calls, and they cost literally less than $10 because we usually launch these for $2 a day. So
Nice.
it's $14 a day total. But this is the entire ecosystem. So we've got, you know, content here that's going to plug every possible hole in the funnel. And so when people come to me, it's like, they're like, well, you know, does it replace the funnel? I'm like, no, like if you look at this, right, this right here is the actual ecosystem. I always tell people it makes an L for Laurel.
Nice.
So remember, my ecosystem is
Yeah.
like an L for Laurel. But you know, it's just got every possible touch point that you can have with a client in order to get them from that conveyor belt, right? They always say it takes 6 or 7 hours of people viewing content. This actually speeds up that process of getting that done.
Really nice. Yeah, I
And
think
the
it's
hot seven,
so,
and the
so
hot 7 is
smart.
just made up of like case studies and testimonials and any type of conversion content, thinking of like every single objection that anyone could have to possibly working with you.
So basically, if we were looking at everybody has a funnel or should have, but it's like a leaky bucket. And basically what you offer them is the band-aids to plug the holes, if I understand correctly, right?
Yeah, we're basically just plugging holes of the funnel. And especially like for those people who, you know, are getting, you know, the dreaded 1 to 1.5 return on ad spend, this will definitely help that ROAS from day one, because like most people, and I'm really surprised that more people aren't running something like this, because some of the biggest names that I'm like, you're not doing any retargeting? What? And we like implement this, and I mean, easily squeeze an extra 6 figures in the first month because they're just simply not running anything like this.
Okay, so shall we do another follow-up session to go a little bit more in detail about these, or would we still have a little bit time to cover them?
Yeah, if you wanna, yeah, I'm pretty cool. I've got my coffee, so I'm good.
Okay, awesome. So let's maybe talk about these little these 3 squares over there, right?
Yeah.
Where we talked about the bottom feeling client and the top client. So what pieces of content are these? Are these existing pieces of content that you leverage, or how would you approach these?
Yep, absolutely. Great question. So if we go back to your ceiling client, your floor client, right? We want to ensure that the headline or the hook, the beginning of the video, is going to be polarizing to people who would not be a great fit, right? So in the very beginning, whenever I was running my ecosystem, I was getting people into Lena Laurel, and I went to Nick and I'm like, can you just look at my content? I was like, the people who are applying are just not the best fit. I was like, I don't want to install pixels anymore. I'm at a time where I don't want to help people launch their ads. And he's like, well, he's like, your power content, this is what I call the Goodwill videos, power content. He's like, you keep saying you're going to help people launch a $5 ad. He's like, stop doing that. Tell them you will help them fix their ads. And I was like, oh. He's like, that in itself, that one change in word is going to be polarizing to people who are not running ads yet. They don't have any ads to fix.
Sorry, just so I get it right. So not polarizing in a Dan Henry kind of way, like, we have strong opinions.
Right.
In that kind of way, but polarizing in a way of like they can self-filter like where they are on the spectrum. Is that the type of like polarizing we're looking for?
Exactly. So my best Goodwill video that's running right now, it says this $5 ad revives a dead webinar funnel.
Smart.
So if you're not really running a webinar funnel, you don't really care, right? Because my ceiling clients are the people who are already running some type of direct response funnel and getting two to three times their return on ad spend.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking at a much higher level from people who are already profitable from their ads. And so a lot of people who aren't profitable with ads, they're like, okay, this is not me. I'm not even profitable with ads, you know? So that's the most important thing, right? Because we want to protect this ecosystem at the bottom from retargeting people who are not our ideal audience, right? So if I'm creating my power content, my Goodwill video ads, I'm going to make sure that I'm super clear on what type of ads they are and what type of person is a good fit for this. And so I'm going to be speaking to, people who already have that very specific problem. And that's why we always have to, know exactly what are the problems that separate our not ideal clients from our ideal clients. And that's the three problems are usually the ones that I build my power content off of.
Okay. So basically the floor client versus the ceiling client, we differentiate them by what problems do they have that we can help solving. Okay, that's really good.
Yeah. So for instance, like my floor clients are people who validated their offer, but they are stuck underneath that 10K, right? And so I'll make a video that, hey, you've sold your offer at least 2 to 3 times, but for some reason you just can't get to that 10K mark, right? So that would be like a piece of content for my floor. And then you got the people who, hey, you're at 15K a month, but you have no idea what type of strategy that you need in order to scale your business beyond, 30 to 40, so that's those are the types of like pieces of content. Now it doesn't have to be, anything that has to do with income, right? So I have a client who's in the fitness space, and fitness people have the most issues with this because they're like, well, my program could be great for everyone. And, but it's like, okay, but if you're going to help a stay-at-home mom lose weight, she's going to have very different problems than a woman who's working in corporate, right? And so being able to narrow down like who is that type of client that I actually want to work with. Like I have a fitness client, and he works with he's got it's more kind of like it's a fitness offer, but it's kind of more like almost like a self-development offer. And he works with, entrepreneurs who are at the 7 to 8 figure level, right? Because those are the ones that have that are like, well, I've got all the success, now I need to work on myself. And I was like, well, those are your ceiling clients. And we identified that as floor clients could be, 7-figure CEOs, because they still have that level of success. They might not own their own company or their business, but he's like, yeah, I'd be willing to work with them because they do have a lot of the mindset, but that's his floor. And so as we were identifying, we're like, yeah, 7-figure CEOs are going to be super different than a guy who's working, who's working in just corporate,
Got it. I think now that really clarifies, because I really have I have 3 type of clients actually. One is the membership owner that was able, to really do big numbers. So, 15 to anywhere to 75K a month. And now their memberships are crumbling and they don't know why, right? So they found one thing that's winning for them and they kept doing that, but they don't have the sophisticated understanding of churn and how to run a membership for like a long time. So I do ads, but actually a lot of what I do is related to the offer and reducing churn and how to structure offers. So that's definitely one of my ideal clients. The other ideal client is I have a lot of YouTubers that come to me, also because they discover Skool as a monetization vehicle, and they have huge audiences, right? They're like, I'm having, the biggest one is 250,000 subscribers. I think I should be making more money, right? But I don't understand, and I don't have an email list, and I don't have a way to drive traffic back. So they basically just hamster wheeling in this kind of content creation. And the third one is, I think I'm doing all the right things, but I have lost perception of growth. And now I'm just running around like a squirrel and I'm doing shiny object things. While they can grow in any way, they kind of have lost their vision of what am I even building, right? And they just have lost their go-to system, if that makes sense.
So
So
would it be, so is it, so the first two really crystal clear. This last one, we would probably want to flesh that out a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
what is the issue? Like, what is the problem? What is it their lack that they don't have? And how is it like specifically showing up in their business every day to where like when they read this video, they're like, oh my God, this is me. I need to watch this video.
So they have a cash cow business, right? But they're not passionate about it. And they have a dream business, but they don't know. And typically, the cash cow business is related to them having not to reveal so much about themselves, right? So it's a little bit detached from their personal brand. And now they're like, either because they're good with ads, right? Or because they just have found a winning offer, or maybe they're an agency owner. And now it's like, I know I should be doing this personal brand thing, or they're service provider, right, for others. Like they make other people like insane amount of money and get paid really well, but they're like, I'm like personal brand curious. I like how you do yours, but and I want to do mine efficiently. So they're kind of in this weird space where they're getting paid so well that they're a little bit complacent. I would actually say that this is probably my floor client, and they want to build their personal brand and do something with it, but they're so unclear about the path, right? And they also don't want to sacrifice the lifestyle that they built. On the other hand, there's this itch because they know they can aim higher, right? So they kind of
That
look,
is so good, the way that you were describing it. So that was me 6 years ago.
okay.
So, but you see how like I was like that last one, like I immediately was like, yep, because you were saying everything. And so that's how crystal clear we want to get in these
Mm-hmm.
video pieces of video content, because like the first way that you described it probably would be a little bit too broad. So you probably would get a
Yeah.
lot of people who are like below your floor that are like, well, I'm struggling and blah blah blah. You don't want those,
Mhm.
like you don't want those struggle bus people. Like you want like the people who are like what you said, they're doing really well, but they're like, God, I'm making like $50,000 a month, but I don't want to like let go of that while yeah,
Mhm.
I love that.
Cool. That was so helpful. Like alone in me understanding actually who these people are in the mastermind, kind of the different buckets. So that was super helpful to see also. It's sometimes I feel like we're attracting a certain type of person because of who we are and the experiences we've been through. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. They come like in clusters of the problem that you can solve. And eventually you get so many of a kind that you're like, oh, these are the type of people I'm actually helping. And it
Mm-hmm.
must have been similar for you with the webinar people, right?
Oh, 100%. Here, I'll actually show you something real quick. Like I think that'll be helpful too for not only you, but like for anyone who's watching this, because I do an exercise that is with my students that helps them flesh out all of these pieces of content, and it helps with their boosted post and their hot 7 and everything, right? And so basically I just make them map out what does the overall journey look like. And so for me, like it's 3 phases, right? Like goal number 1 is to have an optimized book a call funnel. What is the mechanism? A VSL funnel. What is the big problem this solves? There's no automated way to get appointments. How does the client know that they've had success? Well, when they get 2 to 3 times their return on ad spend, right?
Mhm.
So there's 3 phases of like anyone who works with me, I'm going to work with them through these 3 phases, right? Now we
Mhm.
even get even deeper, right? Now this is where these goodwill videos come in, right? Because remember, people only retain about 10% of what you say in a video. So
Mhm.
if I just did a video on an optimized book a call funnel, there's so many things to remember. Well, Laurel talked about numbers in the application funnel. She talked about this. And so what I have my students do is I have them break down each of these goals into 3 to 5 smaller problems that they need to solve in order to get that. So for instance, in order to get an optimized book a call funnel, what's the first thing I have to help them solve? Well, if I'm looking at a call funnel, the quickest win could be, well, is their sales conversion rate less than 20%, right? So what is the first action step? I will make sure that they have some kind of sales call framework, right? This works because it lays out the roadmap on the call so clients have a complete clarity on the steps. Problem this solves if their sales conversion rate is less than 20%. What's a resource to accelerate the process? Well, I can give them a template to lay out their own case framework. Why do I say a resource to accelerate the process, right? Remember we talked about a DM funnel. So within this one sheet, I can literally pull out every single piece of content that my clients need in order to execute my entire process. And then you could even break this down, right? Because if you even fill this out, right, the entire thing, what's the next step, right? Objections. And there's always 4 different types of objections: time objections, money objections, effort objections, and sacrifice objections, right? And so I walk my clients so every single piece of this content, we plug that into all of these objections. And then we even go even further in, because people digest information in different ways, we do an analytical version, an aspirational version, an actionable version, and an anthropological version. And so now we started with like 15 pieces of content that is now turned into like over 600 pieces of content, to where like they always have that piece of content to plug the whole of, whether they're doing the boosted post, the DM funnel, or the hot 7.
That's so cool. I love how you actually, basically what you're doing is you also just, you design the full customer journey, and as much as you can influence, you basically just bridge the next step. It's like almost like you laid the next piece in front of them so they can take the step, right?
You
Really.
always have to, the big thing that people don't realize about content, and this is true for lead magnets, for pretty much anything. A really great piece of content is going to help people solve that small problem, but it's going to reveal the next big problem. And that's where a lot of people miss when they're putting out content, is they miss the part about revealing what the next problem is.
Really good. So you always leave them with a little cliffhanger, basically.
Yeah, because then they go searching for more. They go to my YouTube channel. They're like, I got to figure out like what Laurel says about this next thing. And people are like, well, you're basically giving away the farm in your content. I'm like, yeah, but people don't know how to piece it together. It's like we give them the MapQuest, but we're the Google Maps, because they're gonna, if they print out directions, there's gonna be construction, there's gonna be, and then once they get like unrouted, they don't know how to reroute themselves. And so that's why I always say our content is like MapQuest, and people hiring us is like having the Google Maps version where we can recalculate based upon things that come up.
Yeah, I love this so much. I think it's also much better because somebody who is really resourceful, right? They could really go in and do the work. And somebody who is further, who is also resourceful for their position, right? Because for their position, the better lever is to just hire you because you've been there, done that, and they can go and do other things where they are better deployed, right? So I think it also is fair kind of on any level. Somebody who is maybe like still struggling, they have an option to do it themselves. And somebody who is further off, for them, the better option is to go with you. And that's also the more convenient option for you. So I think it's beautiful and fair on every level. And I love it so much more than just dangling the carrot, and putting everything behind the paywall. That's something I always really loved about you, because I also think our philosophies are pretty much the same in this regard.
100% aligned. That's why when you showed me that funnel, I was like, yeah, let's do this. It'd be fun.
Okay, like one last question about this funnel. So I'm having, my buckets. How much budget goes to the bucket? How much budget goes to the band-aids? So how much goes to the L? How much goes to the bucket?
So the way that I run it, and you can run it at a higher budget, I start each of these out at $5 a day. I have some students who start them out at $1 a day, right? Because they're like, which one is going to bring me the most leads? Because I always tell students we want to add 500 people to our invisible list every week. That's kind of the goal, right? Now, how much that's going to cost you determines how much your cost per 25% view is, right? Because I said that that's the indication of a physical an invisible lead, right? Is people who are watching 25% more. So if you're getting them for 5 cents, you're going to get more bang for your buck than if you're getting them for 50 cents, right?
Yeah.
So these are $5. Boosted post, I do $10 for 3 days, so about $3 a day. And I do 3 a week. The DM funnel we run for $5 a day. And the hot 7 sequence we run for $2 a day for each.
Okay, so comparatively really low budget to the rest of the funnel.
Yeah, and we increase the budget on this Hot 7 as we get more traffic through the funnel, right?
Mm,
Because you can go to $5 a day, $10 a day, but for someone who only has like a $500, a month budget, this and running the entire ecosystem isn't going to be, very budget friendly. Someone who only has $500 a month, guess what I tell them to run? Just this,
makes sense.
right? Because you can have this in this. You can have this in this.
Mm,
And so
that
this is
makes
what a
sense.
$500 a month ecosystem would look like. But someone who's running this, right? We always want to get like 100. Like I always tell students, if we're doing just straight up ad, straight to application, we want to pay between 150 to $200 per application. Do we want it cheaper? Absolutely, but it all depends on how much the offer is on the other end. Because if
Yeah.
you I remember like going through a client with Mariah Cause's program was like $20,000. If you have a $20,000, you can pay $15 to $2,000 for an application because the
That's
cost,
so true.
because it's so higher. And so that's one of the things I always tell people is like we try to get them, the applications down to like 150 to $200. But I mean, when you're running the entire ecosystem down here, we get them for less than 10,
Yeah.
crazy.
I can also imagine how it really helps with show up rates when they're nurtured, because not every call booker is the same quality. So I can really see how that also gets them so much more committed to you when they book the call so that they also show up. So,
Hmm.
I personally have really good show up rates because the qualification process, I think, um, because everybody who wouldn't show up, they kind of get repelled before. But I think for the average person, that would be really good. I also just one thing I think about the power content. I'm not sure if the cheapest view would be like the best view that I would want to have, right? Because sometimes we can be more niche in our content and then it's more expensive, but the quality person might be higher. So, what would you recommend there to how to gauge that?
100%. And that's why I always tell students as long as and what's really awesome is that video views are cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the cheapest kind of Facebook advertising. And so as long as your content is polarizing and you're getting people to watch 100%, right? Even though the invisible lead KPI is at 25%, because a lot of people are like, nothing's happening. And then we'll go into their ads manager. I'm like, but look at how many people are watching 100%. I was like, I would rather, because people get caught up in email addresses. I'm like, I would much rather this than an email address. Like, I would much rather people have, and I'm not saying that email isn't important. It is. Like, I know how important it is. But someone who's watching 100% of my video content is going to be a much higher quality lead than someone who's opted in out of curiosity for something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you also have to differentiate, right? So people always like, is this better or is that better? It's like both is great. It's just
Mhm.
different people prefer different channels of consumption, right? So yeah, if you can get an email address, it's great. If you can get that, it's great. So it's I think where people get hung up is like the same with do I do organic or ads? Well, ideally you do both, right?
Yeah, I always tell my students, when I say content, I'm talking about both because to me, organic is just free advertising and paid ads are just organic content with money on it. So no matter what, they're exactly the same to me. Like any type of content that I produce, I consider it advertising. It's just free or paid advertising.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Laurel. That was so, so helpful.
Yep, absolutely.